Got a comment in here from I just looked at pulled up the comments on the live just from Matt. This is let's go.
Matt.
Got some good questions in here for this week that I was reading off of YouTube from the last week. Kind of some interesting ones.
Yeah. What do we got?
One of them was asking about contacting a brand via mail. Kind of an interesting strategy. Have we done that? I mean,
No.
can't
I mean,
remember.
we showed up, but no, we haven't done that.
Yeah, we showed them in person, but I mean, contacting via mail is like that's a whole nother level of. I mean, I don't respond like I don't want to respond to the normal mail I get. Imagine if you're getting
Yeah.
solicited, like that's a whole
Yeah.
nother level.
I think that's like the worst way to. It's like
Yeah,
probably not going to generate much results.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think things develop over time. It's like at one time that was the way of marketing to people is by just mailing. Like, I mean, you had to at one point rent out a page in, the yellow pages or the white pages or whatever it was for advertising your business. So, I mean, who knows? Yeah. Basically, the question there was, and just expanding on it, says, contacted a brand via mail and they responded that they're unable to supply goods to any more customers selling on Amazon. We do have limits for our products being licensed now. So the company is saying they're licensed. So now I want to contact them via phone. So could you explain to me how I could convince them with the licensing issue? So assuming it's like, a physician, assuming you need to be a whatever licensed person to sell the products, like how would you approach contacting a brand like that? And what would you say to them over the phone?
Um. So I mean, what do we got going on with this licensing deal? Is this
Yeah.
not really clear on the situation?
Yeah, I don't really have more context with it. I think it's just saying that they can't give, let's say it's I don't know, supplement brand or something like that, right? It's like you can't give any more product, any more customers unless you're brick and mortar licensed, you know, anything relating
Oh,
to that. So like industry
like
specificity.
licensed as in like I thought we were talking about like actually like licensing product, like licensing the brand to the
Oh, like a
to
white
some.
label? No, no, no.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I don't think so. That's not how I read it, but
Yeah. So I mean, this is a standard situation where you just want to move on, right? Just made a video about this. It'll be coming out soon. It's like when you get a brand that is like totally hard and steadfast no, where they only want brick and mortar stores, you need a licensed physician on staff, or you need any sort of a license to hold in order to get an account. It's just not going to be worth it. You're better off just pursuing other brands at that point.
yeah, right. Because we talked about, and you mentioned about the video, like the spectrum of tonality of like hard no, in between, and then soft yes, I guess would be the way to say it, right? And like kind of where the real money shot is, I think, is we've talked about is somewhere in the middle, right? Oftentimes that when we'll get on the phone with a brand or supplier, right, it's oftentimes a better phone call, better conversation when you hear a no that kind of sounds like it could be a yes rather than just a straight up yes or a firm no, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Tonality is everything. You want to listen for that tonality on the brand's end, and that's going to dictate the rest of the conversation.
Yeah. It's a hard thing to kind of wrap your head around though. And I was actually working with someone today on how to do this, and he said, just he goes, I know how this conversation went. I reacted this way, et cetera, et cetera. He goes, but I just can't explain it. And I was like, good, that means you're on the right path, because if it's like you have this intuitive sense of maybe a word here or a word there, and it's hard to really put into words yourself as to like why your thought process went towards that, to say this is an exclusive, this is an account I should pursue, versus this is an account I should give up on, whatever it is. Like there's very, very subtle details. And so when people start at the beginning, I mean, we were not good at it, right? It's something that you just learn over time, you progressively become better at.
Yeah. Yeah, the best way to get better at it is just through repetition. At the end of the day, it's going to take time to really start to get a feel for understanding the tonality and hearing the brand's tone on the other end of the phone, because if you don't have the experience, you're not going to have the past conversations to draw on to make future predictions about where the current conversation is going to go. Right. So that's like we say, the students that come into our program, it's like the first 90 days, we want to be contacting as many brands as possible, because 90 days is that mark where it's like, all right, if you hammer the outreach and hit the brands hard, contacting suppliers for 90 straight days, at least 50 to 100 per week, not only are you going to get results at that point if you're contacting that many suppliers per week, but you are also going to, at that point, after 90 days, you're going to start to have a breakthrough with your skill set, because you've elevated yourself a significant degree, right? You've spent a ton of time on the phone understanding what these brands' challenges are. And so the 90-day mark is not only the time when you usually start seeing significant traction in the process. Yeah, people do it sooner, right? But that's probably the average. And that once you get to that point, the more powerful thing after that 90 days is the skill set, because then the snowball starts going downhill in the opposite direction and it starts really picking up speed, provided you're putting in the work for those 90 days.
What do you think that the number is? Because I think that that's a harsh reality for people, right? Is like, what is the number of, I mean, for you, like, what was the number before you started to feel like you got good at it, right? Was it 100? Was it 1,000? Was it more than that? I mean, because people, I think, really have under, they have lower expectations, right? And I think that their expectations make it seem like, oh, the business model is just too hard. It's not too hard. You just haven't put in enough work yet. So, like, what's that number?
Yeah, I mean, I think to be good, like once you start feeling good at the process is when you start like closing some accounts. And so I think you can start feeling pretty solid about it um after like 1,000 calls. I think 1,000, you'll feel like, all right, I'm decent at this, because at that point you will have closed accounts. Now, to feel like you are an expert at it and you have an answer for every single thing a brand says, and there's not a single objection that a brand can tell you that is you're not going to be able to overcome, that comes with years of experience, right? But I think about 1,000 calls is where you can start feeling pretty solid in the process, which lines up with our 90-day mark.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, realistically speaking, like brands don't continue to ask more questions, that like random stuff. Like you pretty much know the responses. It becomes pretty typical over the period of a long time, right? Every brand responds essentially the same way. One of, that the point of becoming good at it, right, is it's not going to take you 90 days to memorize the 10 responses. Like you're going to be able to do that in, you know, your first 2 weeks. You're going to get on the phone, call 300 brands and be like, I know how every brand responds at this point. It makes sense to me. I don't think that's the hard part. I think the hard part is understanding how to, again, react and pivot specifically based on really, really small, fine details that will steer the conversation towards the goal of the brand exclusivity to closing the account. they could say the same thing, and just the way that it's handled and framed on your end as the seller is the difference between closing the account and just completely flopping and not making, opening the account, making profit, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a hard thing to do, and I think that the people get frustrated with it because and they write off the business model. And they're like, this isn't something that I'm going to continue to do. And the reality is the people that again come into it and stick with it for a longer period of time are going to have a lot more success just on the basis that people drop out. So, all right. One of the questions in here too. Do you compete on a product when Amazon is winning the buy box, or do you only compete on a product if it's brand direct when they are not competitive in the buy box?
Yeah, so you'll want to look at Keepa as always and look for Amazon to be on that listing. So if you see Amazon's on the listing at all times and they're controlling the buy box, then that's going to be a no. If you're seeing Amazon on the listing sporadically here and there, then that's something I'll still take a look at. If you're seeing Amazon on the listing forever and they are higher than the buy box and sharing that buy box price, then that is also a potential product to consider. Is there never an opportunity where Amazon's on the listing that you can take advantage of it? No, in terms of, there are, there are times where you could actually close a brand that was sold to Amazon at one point, right? But for the most part, I wouldn't recommend going after those brands that are selling direct to Amazon and where Amazon's controlling 100% of the buy box. It's just not going to be worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, flip side of that, though, I think there's tremendous amount of opportunity on listings that, maybe other sellers wouldn't sell on that Amazon is listed on. So when we talk about our filters and keep it and things like that, we often don't say completely eliminate that, right?
Yeah.
Just because if they're not competitive, right, you're going to have opportunity there. Um, should I check the statistics on the buy box before making a purchase? So I'm assuming that, it's talking about like, actually more context here. Yeah, so on a new Amazon selling account. So like new account, no feedback, no anything. What is that? It does honestly, it doesn't even make a difference, right? Because we went through a period of time where we were doing a lot of that. But
Yeah.
like what's the best way to kind of mitigate that, purchasing big volume, et cetera?
Yeah, the best place to place test orders. All right. A lot of times as a beginner seller, you'll get excited about new product buys and you got to just try to slow yourself down because that could seriously impact you negatively. Like one, two, three bad purchases could wipe your business out, especially if you're working with limited capital, which most are when they start. And so you really want to be doing the proper product research and then of course placing a test order for that inventory. That is probably anywhere from 20, 30, 40, 50 units depending on the price of the product. Place that test order, based on the price, based on the volume, and then place a more volume appropriate order somewhere in the range of 30 to 45 days once you've actually seen those sales roll through your Amazon selling account.
A question here: could you please explain all the types of fees in a product? Like we know the basics, how to find profitable products. So basically, like all the fees from. We actually again kind of made a video on this too with returns and whatnot recently. I mean, what does Amazon hit us with from, because like we said, it's great to see the sales numbers, but at the end of the day, if you're just going for gross, like that's not what we want to do. You know what I mean?
Could you please explain? Yeah. Going for gross, huh? So basically, we have several fees that are involved on Amazon. We have the product level fees. So we have the referral fee, which in most categories is 15%, except automotive and maybe like one or two others, a little bit lower. Automotive's 12%, but everything else, with the exception of a couple other categories, is 15%. So if you sell a product for $100, you're already at 85, right? And so the next fee is the fulfillment fee, and the fulfillment fee is based on the cubic dimensions of the product. And so if it's a smaller, lighter product, it's going to be a lower fulfillment fee than a big, bulky product, right? And Amazon has a schedule breakdown for that. And then we have the inbound placement fee, which is where the inventory gets shipped into Amazon based on where it gets sent to, FC-wise, geographically. It'll get charged a placement fee per unit. If it's going to the East Coast, the West Coast, there is a way to bypass that by going through optimized shipping, where you're shipping it to 5 or more locations. Then you have the shipping. It's going to cost you a little bit of money in shipping into Amazon, very cheap compared to like if you were to just ship one product to the customer. So when you're shipping bulk to Amazon, it's significantly cheaper. And then you have storage fees, right, which is based on the average inventory stored at Amazon's warehouse relative to how many units you're selling in terms of volume. So as long as you're holding a 30 to a 45-day supply, the monthly storage fees are not, you still want to look at them, but they're not like a major concern as long as you're holding that 30 to 45-day supply. But the main things you want to look out for is the normal fee schedule. So the inbound, the referral fee, the fulfillment fee, and the inbound placement fee. You'll want to factor that into.
Eli, you guys love the content. I have a quick question though. If I'm transitioning to wholesale, start out with books and have 1,000 books in my inventory, will that give my store a bad look whenever potential wholesalers check my store?
I don't think so. I don't think that's a huge deal for you. That is a concern that a lot of beginners have. If anything, you're in a little bit of a better position because sometimes beginners have nothing in their store. So as long as you make the focus the relationship and you focus on asking them some questions, understanding their business, presenting yourself professionally, probably a good idea to have a website, especially if you don't want to be directing them straight to the Amazon store right away. You still want to tell them you're on Amazon, but we've talked about ways in other videos on how to work around that. And so it's not a limiting factor for you at all. So I wouldn't make that the focus. Just do the outreach, and 1 out of every 100 will ask you about their what's in for your store, for your products, what products you sell, right? It's not as much as you would think.
Yeah, definitely not. Because honestly, it just doesn't matter half the time. Like the only thing that we really recommend to stay away from is like adult products, just on the basis of like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just not, it's just not a good look. I feel like half the time, if you have products like that that are in the store. All right. But yeah, realistically speaking, category agnostic is like you could be a bookstore, you know what I mean, for all they know.
Yeah.
And that's having a brick and mortar, and that's still probably getting you farther than your normal typical Amazon seller, right?
Yeah. You just want to have the business EIN, the resale permit, and a business email domain. So a professional email domain, so your name at your company domain. And those are the primary things you'll need to reach out to suppliers. And then a website is good to have just to present yourself a little bit more professionally.
Does Amazon accept invoices from Target, Kohl's, Best Buy, Sephora for brand or product ungating?
Well, they used to, they used
Yeah.
to, and now that's just completely a crapshoot. I mean, maybe, sometimes they'll accept invoices from Target, but
Mhm.
it's not something you want to rely on. And so this goes back to, where you're sourcing your inventory, and that if you're sourcing from online or retail stores, you know, it's not going to be as reliable as if you're sourcing from directly from brands or through authorized distributors.
Right.
Like a lot of people worry about gating, but with wholesale, gating is like not a thing. Like people, they put the cart before the horse and they look at a product and then they don't potentially reach out to a wholesale supplier to buy that product because they're gated in it. But that doesn't matter in wholesale because you can get ungated as long as you're buying through authorized distribution, or even better, directly from the brand. But in a lot of cases, you can still get ungated through authorized distribution, but you have a
Yeah.
much better chance with the brand.
I mean, here's the thing though, too, is like ungating a lot of times is sold as the solution, right? People say ungating is the solution. You just have to get ungated, right? And then you'll be fine, right? And there's a lot of content, a lot of teaching around how to ungate products. And in reality, like I like to frame it like this, is to say that getting ungated is like you are beginning the process at which Amazon, or the brand themselves is potentially going to issue you a complaint or something like that, right? So you're actively seeking to get allowed to sell a product in which you are not going to be able to back up in some cases because you don't have the proper documentation. And so you're actively working towards getting yourself into a position that is riskier because of the products that you're selling and maybe who you're buying them from, right? So it's one of those things where it's just, I don't know, maybe it's just the way that Amazon culture is, right? Where it's like, I got to get ungated, I got to get ungated. In reality, I think the solution is in the sourcing rather than the ability to get ungated in a product that you might be issued a IP complaint for.
Yeah. Yeah. It depends on the brand, but like you said, the harder it is to get ungated, the more control that brand probably has over their Amazon platform. And so if you continue to fight to get ungated for a brand that's intentionally gating their brand, it's like you're just like fighting to try to do that, and then you're just going to get an IP claim once you're ungated and you try to start selling it.
I think some of it too becomes a question of like a lot of people don't understand how that gating process works. Like they don't ever see the other side of it, so that they never comprehend what a brand has to go through because it's not an easy process. What a brand has to go through to get their brand gated, it is a difficult process, right? And so if that's the case, then unless something happened with Amazon where Amazon did it automatically, right? Then they clearly care and they're not going to appreciate you going behind their back trying to do that. So it's just not a good look. And honestly, it's the way Amazon has been going with it. In my opinion, it's actually harder to do that than to just reach out to the brands and procure their account that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I mean, people are better off just doing a different model. A lot of people, like just being frank, I mean, but a lot of people are not, right? Like there's a lot of people that maybe it's not for them. But if you're looking to build a real sustainable business, then you got to be sourcing your inventory direct from the brand. No doubt.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
arbitrage is you're literally just buying inventory and you're selling out of the inventory. Your business, the business is not valuable. It's not something, it's not like a turnkey operation. Yeah, you could, systemize it and a little bit, but get some replens, but that's like top top 1% of people ever end up getting to that place in arbitrage, and 99% of people, it would be far more efficient to build that type of model through wholesale.
Yeah. And that's nothing against the people that are doing it. I mean, there's some serious, serious arbitrage sellers. I think it just comes down to it comes down to the desire to constantly be chasing new product as well as kind of the fear of account health issues, right? And that's just not something that that we're comfortable dealing with, and think there's easier ways in that regard.
Yeah. 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 If we got any last minute questions here, we'll pop them up in the chat.
We've been receiving, and I've seen it multiple times, which is interesting to me. Requests on the YouTube videos for Russian translation on multiple times, which I think is interesting. I didn't know. I didn't know that we catered to. I don't know. Does Amazon? Maybe I'm ignorant on this. Is there an Amazon Russia? I guess there is, right?
I don't even know, but yeah, I mean, they don't need to be selling in Russia to be in Russia. They could sell in the U.S.
That's
marketplace.
valid. That's valid. I just didn't know.
Um,
Um,
but yeah, I don't know.
no.
I think somebody yelled in the comments that we didn't have Russian translation or something.
Well, there's multiple, multiple. Apparently, they've stopped retail selling Amazon in Russia. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, yeah. Multiple people. It's a point of contention. It really is. So,
Yeah.
isn't there an automatic thing though on YouTube where you can translate? No,
Yeah,
or is
I
it
think
just
so. Yeah.
yeah? No.
Yep.
Well,
So
if you have any other questions, last minute things, anything other than our Russian translation for our YouTube videos, drop them, and then if not, then we will be live next Tuesday as well, same time. You guys are ready? Amazon creating micro fulfillment centers in their Whole Foods will still be worth it to pursue food distributors. It's interesting.
yeah, smaller to medium sized brands.
Yeah, I mean, we're not looking at brands that would be in Whole Foods to begin with, right?
Yeah. So if you focus, there's so many grocery brands that are smaller to medium size. So many. You go deep in Amazon's catalog. You start doing reverse sourcing, storefront stocking, the keep a product finder filters. Start filtering that down further and further. Right. We've gone into some of that on the channel in different fine products videos. Right. You target those brands that are smaller to medium size, filtered only by grocery. Right. See what you can get. Select only the category of grocer if you want to sell in grocer. It's a good category to be in. There's no returns. There's real opportunity there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you could be, if you're selling in the wrong category, like an apparel category or something, you could be destroying your business and not even know it. So grocery is great. Um, I don't think that has any effect. It is cool though that it's saying that Amazon's creating micro fulfillment centers. It's I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
see. Yeah, hybrid fulfillment centers in the back of select locations, store within a store. Hmm.
Yeah. So
When they get a warehouse in there, that's fun. Then we'll be talking. Then we'll be talking. They got an FC in the back of a. You ship my products to the back of a Whole Foods.
yeah. So we'll be live next Tuesday, 6:00. Actually, yeah, we'll be live. We'll be live. Yeah, I was just checking the time. Yeah. 6:00. And we'll see you there.
All right. See you next week.
Peace out.